Good morning. Today I would like to talk about. I'm probably going to upset a lot of people because I've spent a lifetime studying the supernatural and the paranormal to develop this science and to step into this new me and have my ascension to become an ascended master in everything that I do. All the work that I put out there, my quantum magnetics, my work in biorhythmics, and everything that I do is for the purpose of helping the creative empath have their ascensions. The creative empathic mind is the mind that has the ascensions. They are the ones that are chosen to stand out from the rest. And in my entire life of studying the paranormal and, the evolution of life and death and everything in between, reincarnation, past life debt, childhood traumas, karmic debt, ancestral debt, all that sort of thing, because as an occult scientist you had to know a little bit about everything, because I can't teach and preach if I don't understand what it is that I'm talking about. The thing is that what I'm teaching and preaching has been 50 years in the making, but it hasn't been an easy road for me. Because when you're on an ascended path, you are expected to stand out from the rest. And this is what this topic is about, is that, because I've spent many years, pretty much since I was like 15, 16 years old, when my sister started teaching me how to read with normal playing cards. My other sister was a tarot reader. So I have spent a good few decades studying psychics and mediums and clairvoyants and tarot readers and intuitives and paranormal investigators and, all the audience and blah, 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 spiritual leaders and all that, trying to figure them out. Where did their gifts come from? How could they do what they do? Was it real? Is it imagined? Is it fake? Are they stone reading? Are they cold reading, sorry. Are they manipulating people? Are they lying? Are they faking evidence? All that sort of stuff. Because when I started doing readings in my 20s, I was being asked a lot of questions by the people I was doing readings for that I didn't always have answers to. And as a Scorpio, I don't like that. I don't like that people come to me looking for salvation or answers or help or guidance or just even out of curiosity. And I haven't been able to give them an answer. So I decided to study it. And that's where I ended up getting into a lot of trouble, because people didn't like the fact that when I realised that they were either doing cold readings or faking it, or that it wasn't true, or that they were lying to make money, or abusing their gifts or their privilege or their powers, or using black magic, and that I would call them out. And it got me into a lot of trouble. If you know my story recently over the last sort of 4 or 5 years, and what I've dealt with the people from my past when I tried to teach this stuff to people who were on a descending path, I had to figure out the hard way. I had to learn the hard way when the Judas test came about. And there's very few people in the world that even know that the Judas test exists amongst people on an ascending path. But when the Judas test came about, I had to learn the hard way that everybody around me was on a descending path, and then I was being expected to walk away and turn my back. And that included on friends, family, clients, students, best friends, partners, husbands, all the kit and caboodle. And it's a hard process. Now, the topic of this conversation is about the fact that in the course of my observation and study in human behaviour, in conjunction to their spiritual development, their faith, their religion, their connection to source, God, their ancestors, their gods, whatever it is they believe in, I've noticed that there's a lot of people out there giving themselves titles in the spiritual faith, that they don't really know anything about, that they know nothing about. They call themselves the chosen ones, the 144,000, and all they're doing is sitting on a channel doing readings, giving out this forced light or fake light or insincere gratitude, insincere light, begging for likes, shares, subscribes, all that sort of stuff, and giving themselves titles they don't deserve, they don't understand. What people need to understand, what you really need to understand, is that when you are a chosen one, it's not just that you've had a hard life. It's not just that people have been mean to you and, you've found yourself in poverty, or you found yourself homeless, or you found yourself struggling financially, or, you've been abused and that sort of thing. When you are chosen, when you're on an ascending path, when you are singled out to be somebody that your God and your ancestors need you to be in order to, help the masses and help raise the vibration of the planet, you have to be brutally honest with yourself. You can't just sit there and tell a sob story about how you've had a hard life and people have been mean to you and, gossip and judgment and all that sort of thing. You have to understand that a lot of the things that happen to you over the course of your life have happened to you so that you can learn the lessons in order to pay off karmic debt. Like, I've always been cheated on. Well, have you ever in your lifetime been disloyal to somebody else? Have you cheated? If you have been unfaithful to someone, then someone's going to be unfaithful to you. If you have stolen from people, even when you were, a child or a teenager, and someone steals from you, then that's paying off karmic debt. For the really big things like going to prison, or, where you've been homeless or beaten, or someone's tried to kill you, or you've been essayed, or anything like that, it's usually because you're paying off either ancestral karmic debt or a past life karmic debt. The real big events happen so that you can pay off karmic debt from a past life or from ancestral karmic debt in this life. And it's kind of like you decide before you come here that you're going to deal with the bigger things in life in order to help alleviate ancestral suffering, because a lot of our ancestors and that can't fully rest in peace, can't cross over into the new realms, heaven, whatever, the upper worlds, whatever it is, to be reincarnated, whatever it is that you believe happens when you die. A lot of them don't get to cross over and fulfill that next part of their journey because they've done things in their life that they weren't able to pay off while they were living. So then that karmic debt is passed down through the generations, and people on an ascended path are given that opportunity to pay off ancestral karmic debt with the promise that, we're going to make it hard for you, it's going to be hard for you. But when you come out the other side, not only are you going to be pure and your vessel purified and your soul clean and cleansed, it means that all your karmic debts paid off in your past lives and in this one, as your families, your ancestors. It's all paid off. It's like the slate is wiped clean. But just because somebody's had a hard life doesn't make them one of the chosen. It doesn't make them one of the 144,000. And in fact, I actually believe that the 144,000 are they haven't come up yet. They haven't been revealed yet. They are either haven't been born yet or they are children, because the world that we are currently living in at the moment is only just starting to get prepared for the second coming, for this rebirth, for this new world that we're about to step into. We're only just starting to tiptoe into the possibilities of the supernatural. People are finally starting to click that there is more to this journey that we are on in this life than what we originally thought, or what we were told by our preachers and our ministers and our priests and our spiritual guides. you know, if you know the Bible and you understand in the book of Revelation, God said that, you know, when the second coming of Christ is here, you know, when this change comes about, he doesn't want people going to churches. He doesn't want people having to rely on anybody else to show them the way to God and the kingdom of heaven. He wants them to do it themselves, that their church, that their temple is their inner self, it's their intuition, it's their heart. Their heart will be their connection to God, because God wants to be able to come with you everywhere. You don't need to go to church to speak to God, that he is everywhere, that you can talk to Jesus and follow his teachings and his principles everywhere you go, and take God with you, you know, like a little pocket pet, instead of having to, you know, wait for church to be open on a Sunday, or, you know, when the doors open to your ministry or whatever. In the new world, God just wants everywhere to be your church, whether it's sitting under a tree or sitting in your bedroom with your Bible, or just listening to scriptures on the internet, or, you know, doing offerings with incense and feeding the animals, whatever your faith requires you to do in order to connect to your God or gods. That's what God wants you to do, because God is Atom, and Atom is all creation, and all gods are one God. He just goes by different names. You know, there's 24 thrones in the kingdom of heaven that the 24 gods sit on, the 24 main gods sit on, and so that is all God, is one God. So he's like a Swiss Army God. He goes by the name of whatever you need him to be, depending on your faith or your religion. And at some point, when you are expected, when you are, you know, they say many are called, few are chosen. When your God and your ancestors, because your ancestors need to be able to give you the support that you need for your ascension as well. Like, God doesn't just choose you, like your ancestors have to choose you as well, as the ancestors of all the people in the future that you're going to be expected to help. So they put you through like a trial, hence the Judas test. And they put you through, it's like SAS. It's absolutely brutal. You get shot at with live ammo, and, you know, like it is absolutely brutal. And so there's a lot of people out there that think that, you know, their ascension was hard, and, you know, they like how you can tell if these people are genuine or not is because they will have an understanding of the planet and our connection to the universe in a way that is different to everybody else's, because people on an ascending path go against popular opinion. Because, as I keep saying, popular opinion doesn't necessarily mean it's the truth. Okay, so it's like gossip or Chinese whispers. Just because you're told it doesn't mean it's true. And you will always tell people on an ascending path, they will have the least amount of followers. You know, they will be hounded, stalked, gang-stalked, abused, victimized, you know, by everybody as soon as their light comes on and is spread out on the TV or the internet or social media, because they evoke the darkness in people, because they wake up the darkness in people. These demons will come out of the shadow and start attacking them immediately, you know, and they get gang stalked, and they get hounded, and they, you know, people make up fake profiles in their name, and, you know, solicit readings in their name that, you know, they're not putting out there, and they'll steal the work and steal their identity and all that sort of thing. That's how you know these people have been chosen for an ascending path. Not everybody out there has been chosen for an ascending path, but the ones that are, you then see, you know, at some point they are expected to start defending themselves, because it's like, are you tough enough? And that's what I'm going to call this video. Are you tough enough? Because, like Job in the Bible, when Satan had that meeting with the angels and God in heaven, and they had that discussion, and Satan said, I can get Job to turn his back on you and denounce you. And God said, he is my most loyal follower. He is my most loyal servant. I'm guaranteeing you now he is never going to denounce me. So they had that wee bet. Okay, so that's what happens, is that, and you have to remember, is that Satan isn't the bad guy. Satan is there to test your faith. and the devil is there to tempt you away from your faith. So Satan tests your faith, and the devil tempts you, just like God is the result of your faith, and Jesus leads you to God. The devil leads you to Satan, depending on whether you give in to the temptations of the devil, give in to sins of the flesh, or, your vices instead of virtues. So think of Jesus as teaching you your virtues, how to master your virtues in order to find your God. The devil tempts you with your vices in order to take you to Satan, but Satan does not and is not allowed to punish innocent people. And that's, you have to understand that God is Satan when God is angry. Because everything in the universe has a dual, everything has an equal and an opposite, and there's duality to everything. Just like, some people can make us angry by trying to provoke us with certain things that they know will get a rise out of us, and some people, I call them master manipulators, and then we have master makers, the people that we can go to when we need solace and nurturing and love and protection. They'll always bring the best out in us. And this is what happens when you're on an ascending path. You will come up against master makers and master manipulators, and it is up to you to navigate and guide your way through the obstacle course that God as Satan puts in your path, in order to see if you're tough enough and how strong is your faith to get to the other end. Now, one of the things that is going to happen, which is inevitable, you are not going to be able to avoid it. It is one of the things that every single person that I've ever looked at who has been on a true ascending path, there are so many few actual chosen people out there, I can't even begin. Like, there's hundreds of thousands of people out there saying that they're the chosen one, and I've actually only come across about 3 or 4 real ones, on social media and in history and in the real world, and, blah, blah, blah. Because even people like Gandhi weren't, and Mother Teresa were not the people that you think they are. These were people that had a lot of dark secrets that I know for a fact that when they got to the other side, when their day of judgment came, they weren't getting into where they thought they were going to go, simply because, they wore the cloth and preached the name of their Lord or their gods or their whatever. These were people that hid things that nobody else knew about, that if when they come out, people just turn a blind eye to it, because these people were given such holy reputations in their lifetime. Nobody likes to admit the truth. There are so many preachers and leaders and quote unquote ascended masters and spiritual leaders and priests and ministers and all that out there who are hiding dark secrets, who think that people aren't going to find out eventually what was hiding in the shadows. And so one of the things that happens when you're ascended master is that God, as Satan, shines a light on everything that you need to look at, and it's public. Like, people are going to know. People are going to know everything about you. It's like you are put under a spotlight, and then you have to, if you're blinded by that light, you have to navigate and crawl your way out of it in order to be able to see clearly, in order to be cleansed and purified. And if there is any murkiness or muddiness or anything in those shadows, it is going to be illuminated. And you are going to have to face it head on and say, okay, fair enough, Lord, God, ancestors, source, universe, divine, whoever, fair enough. I understand that this is happening to me because I did this when I was 15, or I did that when I was 21, or that I did that when I was 7, or, whatever. Because even though children are pure and innocent, when children are victims to a negative upbringing, they will do things that are negative in order to survive, or because they don't know any better, or because they were encouraged to do it, because we are a direct result of how we were raised as children. But that doesn't mean to say that the little things we do as children we get away with doing once we're adults. We will have to pay these things off at some point, because once a child starts learning to be able to walk and talk and communicate and think for themselves, that is when they start being held responsible for their actions. So, our karmic debt starts being paid off quite early in life. And then what happens is when your gods, your ancestors think you've done enough to be purified, to be offered the chance to become an ascended master, to speak on behalf of them and your God and, the ancestors of everybody else that you are then going to be put in line to help in the future once you've ascended and graduated and get to, live out your calling. They basically come to you and they say, how much do you love me? How true is your faith? Is it true enough that you are prepared to turn your back on everybody who denounces what you're doing and tries to stop you from doing what it is I, your God, I, your Lord, I, your Creator, we, your ancestors, are asking you to do? Because what we're asking you to do in the future is so important that people are going to know your name in history long after you're gone, that the gifts and the abilities and the causes that you set up in this lifetime are going to be remembered long after you're gone. And it will be carried on through your children and your grandchildren and your great-grandchildren and your great-great-grandchildren, and you are going to leave a legacy. And once this is over, you are going to be pure and clean. You will be forgiven of all sins. You will be exalted. You will sit on to our right on the throne next to us, and no harm will come to you, and nobody will be able to touch you, and no one will be able to do you wrong once you pass this test. But are you tough enough? How much do you love me? Do you love me enough? Do you love your ancestors enough? Do you love yourself enough that you are prepared to be put through this trial, knowing that you are going to be judged, knowing that you are going to be talked about, knowing that you are going to be stolen from, knowing that you are going to be abused and victimized and stalked and not believed, and you may have to go to prison, you may have to go to jail, you may have to go to the courts, you may get your name slaughtered all over social media, slaughtered all over the news, but doing it standing in truth and faith. Are you prepared to do that, knowing it's going to come from your wives, your husbands, your best friends, your brothers, your sisters, your parents, your grandparents, your crew, a panel of judges, police officers, social services, hospitals, doctors, reporters, social media owners, CEOs of companies? Are you prepared to stand up on stage in front of everybody in the world who is going to be turning to look at you as soon as we shine that light on you? Are you prepared to stand in truth and faith and in light of the love that you have for your God, your creators, your ancestors, and say, this is me, this is who I am, this is what I'm being told to say, this is what I'm being told to do, and I'm doing it regardless of what you say, what you do, what you think, because I will not let my God down, and I will not let myself down, because I do not want to ruin the reputation of my ancestors, and I do not want to ruin the reputation of self in order to please all those people who don't walk in the same light as me. Because that's what's exactly is going to happen. And you end up having to go into isolation or hermit mode. You get put in a protective bubble where people are going to try and do black magic, where people are going to try and do voodoo, where people are going to hack your accounts, where people are going to try and steal your identity, where people are going to try and mimic you, and you are expected to just focus on the road ahead, focus on the path ahead, and follow that light. follow the light of truth. What does he say? I am the truth and the life. You are to follow the truth in order to find your true life. Because what you become at the end of your ascension is so different to who you were at the start of it. It's like you have to die in order to be reborn. Everything about your life has to die and wilt away in order for you to be reborn into this new person that you're expected to be. And who that person is someone who doesn't take nonsense from anyone, someone who has had to toughen up. Because the thing is that it's always the creative empaths that are chosen to follow an ascending path. And the creative empaths are your writers, your musicians, your artists, your engineers, your scientists, your mathematicians, your inventors, your architects, your creative minds, the people who take what they see in their head and turn it into a tangible product. And that tangible product will be a piece of music or a piece of art or a discovery or an invention or a science or a maths or something that will transform the world, or change parts or pockets of the world that have never been done before. These are pioneers, these are trailblazers, and these are people who are set apart from everybody else in the world. So it's not enough that they sit and sell their readings as psychics and mediums and clairvoyants online or on TV or on the radio or on YouTube or social media. That's not enough. That doesn't make them part of the chosen. These are people who die, who feel like if they don't create, they're going to die. If they don't get it out of their head what it is they know they were put here to create or do. These are people who are born following this passion to get their art out, to get those songs written, to get that thing invented, to get that thing made, like me with my biorhythmic field generator. Like it's a driven passion that everybody else in the world or everybody else around you is going to say give up, you're never going to do it, you're a dreamer. I got diagnosed with grandiose delusions and all that sort of thing, and I had to sit there and take it and be told by quote unquote professionals or people who thought that they knew more or were smarter than me, that my ideas and my science and my hopes and dreams was a mental illness. And I had to sit and take every bullet, every rock, every stone that was thrown at me, and I just kept my head down and kept my focus on the light at the end of the tunnel, because I had to rely on my faith and my ancestors and the few people who were left supporting me. I lost hundreds of people, hundreds. I'm from a very large family, a large Indigenous and Catholic family, a large family. I'm the baby of 7. And when I got out the other end, I was left with one sibling who was still there standing, prepared to take up weapons to fight, to help get me out of that tunnel, and my sons, my 2 sons, and that was it. Everybody else either criticised me, didn't want to hear it, got sick of it, helped, joined in, tried to sabotage it, tried to use covert tactics to talk me out of my faith. You would not believe how many people tried to talk me, even doctors tried to talk me out of my religion and my faith and my dedication to my Indigenous roots and my upbringing. Just because I'm white skinned, they couldn't see that I had black blood coursing through my veins. I suffered immense racial abuse, racial discrimination, bigotry, slander, defamation of character. I was just like everything, and I knew it was coming because I had been prepared for it years before, and I just kept my head down and I focused on the light. And then when I got out at the tunnel at the end, I didn't even recognize myself. I went through hell and walked through the fires of hell with with my bare feet, barefoot warrior woman, because I hate wearing shoes. And bare feet, I walked across the pits of hell, walked through that fire in order to be purified because that's exactly what happens. You have to walk through the fires of hell, Satan's hell. Satan takes you to hell with God's permission, on the provision that it does not take your life, because God wants to see how much you love him. So it's like Satan takes you to hell and God stands at the end of the tunnel, because he's the light at the end. And it's like when you're a baby and you're first learning to walk, and your parents, one parent like your dad, will stand you up, and your mum will call you and say, come on, come on. Because I used to do that with my boys. My ex and I would stand and I would hold my babies. And when they were learning to walk, one of us would sit at the end and tempt them, come on, Bubba, come over here, baby. It's okay, I've got you, I'm not going to let you fall. And that's what happens. And you have to trust that God isn't going to let you be tempted by the devil and all the darkness that is surrounding the devil. The gossip and the judgment, and the attempts on your life, because people will try to kill you. You will be sexually assaulted. You will be beaten. You will be locked away. You will be starved. You will be homeless. You will be without clothes. Like, it's that kind of hell. This isn't just, people turned their back on me, my partner cheated, so I had to leave town. Like, you are taken through the bowels of hell. Satan takes you there and he says, go to the light. And if you get out the other side and you are not tempted by vices, if you are not tempted by the devil, I promise you, no one will be able to touch you once you are purified. And then God stands at the other end and says, come on, baby, come on. It's all right, I've got you. You're not going to fall. And that's what you do. So then all the master manipulators, or, the devil comes with the lies and the accusations and the gang stalking and the theft and the abuse and the sexual assaults and the attempted murders and, all that sort of, all the people that are triggered by your light, the light of your faith, the light of your creator that is in you, that is guiding you out the end of that tunnel. He then distracts you with things like bird song, or a cuddle from a stray cat, or a YouTube video that makes you laugh, or scriptures in the Bible, or a song that uplifts your mood, or a piece of inspiration that comes across you that you feel the need to put on social media, or someone will come to you with a bit of advice and needing a bit of advice, that when you give it to them, it helps them so much that that you're doing the right thing. God puts these little things in your path. Your ancestors put these little things in your path. Your creator, whether you believe in God or not, whoever it is that you believe gives you your strength and your faith. Just insert their name where I'm saying God, because God to me is Atom. The creator of all things is atoms. But atoms is God. God is whoever I need him to be at the time, Allah, or Ganesha, Shiva, Zeus, Hades, whoever I need at the time. Is because I am a high priestess and a gatekeeper, I need to be there to help people of all faiths and all spiritual levels of understanding and religions, and that regardless of whether they believe in God or not, even like atheists and agnostics and that. I am there for everyone. And that's why I had to go through all that I had to go through in my 50 years of living, because I had a lot of karmic debt to pay off for myself and for my family and for my ancestors, because I was chosen to be somebody who was going to come out into this world and say, the supernatural is real, the paranormal is killing people, the paranormal is shutting our planet down and destroying my Papatūānuku, my grandmother Earth. She is suffering because of the way we are treating each other and this paranormal activity that has been promoted and is worth trillions of dollars, you know, in the entertainment and commercial industry, is what is creating such suffering on on our planet at the moment. And God has told me that this is the science that is going to help the right kind of people ascend to such a point that when we all turn our lights on together, we will be able to raise the vibration of the planet and heal her, and then all the darkness will fall away, because there'll be so much light on the planet that she will then heal and elevate us to the next stage of evolution, so we will eventually be able to get off this planet and go and traverse the universe, and you know, all the new worlds that are yet to be discovered, you know, through the wormholes and that. But we have to earn the right to do it, because we have to all, as a collective on this planet, pay off our karmic debt in order to be able to earn the right to get to the next stage of evolution. And it's happening slowly but surely, but I was expected to come along. An uneducated Indigenous woman, got kicked out of school at 14. I have an autism when it comes to maths. I can't do maths at all. And yet here I was being expected to find a way to express this developed form of physics that nobody had ever heard of before, quantum magnetics, and biorhythmic engineering as well. You know, my dad was an engineer in the army, but, you know, I mean, I had to discover this stuff as I was developing it. You know, I didn't come into this knowing everything that I was going to know and then put the plan into place. I literally had to discover it as I would be writing about it and having to research stuff and write things as I was discovering them. So I was learning as I went. I'd get taken over by the Holy Spirit, so to speak. I'd go into the zone, which creative empaths will know what I'm talking about. When you go into the zone, it's like you drift off into the atomic frequency, and you can lose track of time and your surroundings and, you know, all that sort of thing. So I'd go off into the zone, and when I'd come out, you know, I'd produced all this work. And I was expected to then have to say to people, the supernatural is real, here's the science to prove it, this is what we can do, this is what we need to do, and in order to prove it's real, I have to use my own life as the example to prove it's real. And I was expected to then have to document my entire process, knowing that I would be judged, knowing that people would laugh at me and gossip and turn their backs and think I was nuts and try and get me locked away and try and get me killed and try and steal from me and, you know, all that sort of thing, but trusting that Satan was not going to let anyone, you know, he put that protective bubble over me, because as long as I stayed on my righteous path, as long as I didn't give in to any temptations, I was always going to have that protective bubble of anyone that was going to try and send black magic or voodoo or, you know, of negative or dark intent towards me. I had that bubble, and God was at the other end, you know, keeping me focused and keeping my head down, and anything that was thrown at me, I knew just would bounce off me, because what happens is, you know, you grow a tough skin. You know, when you see people who work with a lot of tools like blacksmiths and mechanics and engineers and firefighters and that sort of thing, when you work with a lot of these, you know, heavy, tough tools and that, and these hard, laborious jobs, you get tough skin on your hands. You know, well, an ascension is the same way. You toughen up. You grow a tough skin, because, you know, walking through the pits of hell and having to carry your sword and your shield, you know, your truth and justice and balance and purity and righteousness, and that as what that is protective bubble is made of, and you have to walk carrying your weapons and the tools of your spiritual trade, and it toughens you up. It gives you a plate of armor at the end, so that by the end of it, it doesn't matter what people have tried to do, put your photos and stuff online and try and say that you're a prostitute or a porn star or selling yourself or, whatever. I know people tried to say that I was doing dominatrix, and that, I was a swinger and, all sorts of things, all sorts of just vile things that came from personal photos and that I had with my husband, which is, I knew that whatever I shared with him, if it was shared with anybody else online, by the time this got to court and I was ready to stand up and clear my name and prove my innocence, that anything that he had put up would be considered revenge porn or, and be illegal. And I'm not talking like it's nothing you need to worry about, but, my husband was in prison and I would send him sexy photos and things like that because he was my husband. You do things with your husband. I haven't done anything I need to be ashamed of. I haven't done anything I need to be ashamed of, because what you do in the privacy of your marriage or your relationship is supposed to be between you and him. But I always knew when we were together that anything I sent him, if later on it didn't work out and he tried to use it against me, it would be considered breaking the law. So, if there is anything out there, I can guarantee you it hasn't come from me, because your light triggers the darkness in people to do the sort of things that they will do anything and everything they possibly can to try and stop you from getting to the light at the end of that tunnel. And if my Instagram and my YouTube and my Twitter and my Facebook and LinkedIn has taught you anything about my process, because I have documented my entire process, the ups, downs, the highs and lows, the goods, the bads, the positives, the negatives. I have documented every single thing. I've put it all out there, knowing that at some point I was going to be judged enough that my freedoms and my liberties and my human rights were going to be taken away from me and violated, and laws broken by people in positions of power in order to try and deter me from getting to the light at the end of the tunnel. I had to put it all out there, knowing that eventually one day I would be able to stand up in a court of law and in the courts of public opinion and clear my name and get justice for my sons and I. And at the end of it, people would then know that the light at the end of the tunnel is real, and that the supernatural is real, and that our God, our gods, our ancestors really are here watching over us and choosing the best of us out there to represent them the best way we know how, in order to make a difference in the world, to start changing this world that we live in. Because for centuries, for thousands of years, we have lived by the wrong sets of rules. We have been following the wrong kind of light. We have been living in a mimicked world, in a false world. We have been living in the matrix. We have been living in an assimilated world that isn't true to how we are really supposed to be living. And so the chosen, the real ones, are put here and made to go through hell on full view of everybody else around them, so that when they get out the tunnel on the other side, people can go, whoa, like, what have I been doing with my life? What have I been believing in? Is this why I've been so unhappy? Is this why I keep having these moments of feeling depressed? Is this why I keep feeling so unfulfilled? Is this why I keep allowing myself to be treated like crap? Is this why I keep allowing myself to be beaten and cheated on and robbed and stolen from? It makes people reevaluate, because we are the leaders. We are the ones who then we are the ones who then stand at the tunnel, at the end of the tunnel, and become the light for the other people, stepping out of hell We are the ones that then take over from God and say, come on, baby, you can do it. I've got you. I'm not going to let you fall. Because we know that the people that we help today are going to be the people who help others tomorrow in ways that will make impacts on the world for the rest of time. But somebody has to go first. So because we are creative empaths and we are seen as easy prey, we are seen as naive. People mistake our kindness for weakness, and we have to learn the hard way that we have to be very careful with who we show kindness to. We will have to use our swords at some point and start chopping heads, because you are expected at some point to start defending yourself. And that's what I have been doing, for over a year now, since everything happened to me. I had to start putting it all out there to defend myself, knowing that the day was going to come when I would be able to stand up in court and clear my name, and have all the people that broke these laws and did these crimes against me would then be held accountable, not knowing when it was going to come, not knowing how it was going to happen, not knowing who it was that was going to finally hear my sons and I and save us and help us and clear my name and bring us back together and, wipe my record of everything that has been said about me that is a lie or wrong or misdiagnosed. To say I was a victim of a human rights violation is an understatement. These people did not care about my safety, my health, or my well-being, or that of my children's. They just didn't want to be wrong in their diagnosis. There's a lot of gaslighting and a lot of sadistic abuse that goes on in the mental health system, especially in hospitals, and that doesn't get talked about. And I'm talking about it. When I bring this case to court and I'm able to clear my name and hold these doctors and these police officers and social service and that, because I'm determined to hold them all responsible for what they've done to my sons and I, innocent people. I am not anything like these people have accused me of. It's just that they don't want to admit that they were wrong against somebody who's an uneducated Indigenous immigrant. Ego, they are the temptations of the devil. And even knowing that they were wrong in everything that they said about me, even lies, documented lies and documents, they've actually lied about things that I've said, about things I've said I've done, like actual lies. And when I tried to bring them up about it, their answer was to threaten me with more medication to try and shut me up, because that's what they try to do. They will just keep medicating you until there's nothing left of you, to shut you up, because they do not want to lose their jobs. They do not want to admit they were wrong. Most of these doctors should have handed back their medical degrees, because one doctor didn't even know that anaphylactic shock doesn't necessarily always kill you. And he threatened me with all sorts to try and shut me up, and I refused, because I cannot let people lie. Like, it grates on my nerves. I cannot be around anything false anymore. I cannot be around anyone or anything that is false, negative, or lies, because it grates on my nerves, and I have to say something. It's like it just comes out. I can't stop it, because God is the truth and the life, and when you're standing in God's light, you're standing in God's truth, and God doesn't let you lie. So you become brutally honest. You cannot hold it in. It becomes physically painful to live a lie. And that is why a lot of creative, empathic people suffer so much through the course of their life, because they're forced to live a lie. They're around people who don't let them do what they want to do. They're around people who refuse to listen to them, who gaslight them, who shut them down, who try to talk them out of living, being, thinking, doing what it is that their heart is calling them to do. And so they're forced to live a lie. And then they turn to the vices that make them feel good: drinking, drugs, alcohol, sex, pornography, whatever it is, you know, that takes them away from the misery of their reality, that then becomes a vice, and then they are tempted by the devil, and then slowly they start to deteriorate, their soul starts breaking down, you know, they develop mental illnesses, the paranormal activity comes about, you know, the poltergeist activity and all that sort of thing, and then they leave their imprint on the atmosphere so that future generations, you know, people who live in the house in 100 years' time, move into that home, start picking up on that negative energy, start hearing the yelling and the crying and the screaming and the voices, thinking that they're haunted or that they themselves are going nuts, not realizing that they're picking up on the energy of somebody, of a creative empath who was suffering long before they were even in that home, and they're picking up on it because it's the echoes of the past, you know, resonating into the future. And this is what I'm all about. My shows and my podcasts, my sons and I, and when I get a driver and I'm advertising for a co-host. I want a co-host that I can, you know, bounce these discussions off. I want him to be of African American, Latin American, or Indigenous descent, because he can then take what I am teaching him, he can take what we are learning and what we are putting out into the world to his people and his community, and translate what it is that I am teaching him to them, so that then they can also understand what it is that's going on as well. Because, you know, there's so many things that are going wrong in these communities where people are turning their backs on God or turning their backs on their ancestors and that, and it's Indigenous people, and it's, you know, it's people of Latin American and African American and African descent and Indigenous descent. You know, we are the ones that still hold that key within our genetic DNA, within our genetic memory, that remembers how to talk to the universe. And the universe is that light at the end of the tunnel that is saying to us as a civilization, come on, baby, come on, you can do it. I'm not going to let you fall. And when we get to the light at the end of the tunnel, we get to go through that wormhole, and we get to see all new worlds and an all new universe and an all new everything. Everything starts again, clean slate, because we would have earned the right to get to the light at the end of the tunnel. And so just please be careful who you trust and who you believe when they say that they are chosen, when they say they are a divine masculine or a divine feminine. The real ones are the ones that you would least expect, you know, like Jesus was humble, and they say that, you know, the Holy Grail was possibly, you know, that was it, Indiana Jones, when he had to choose from all the cups and goblets and that and take that leap of faith, and he chose the cup that was made of wood, was it, because Jesus was humble? Well, that's, you know, you're chosen, they are humble, you know, like they don't wear the best clothes, they certainly do not walk around in designer clothes with, you know, lashings of jewelry and handbags and nice nails and flash cars and live in big mansions, and that they are not your chosen. These people are not blessed. What you need to understand is that God will give these people blessings of abundance in order to see what they'll do with them once they have it. You know, I have always said God doesn't deny people making money, but what he wants, what he waits to see is what you'll do with the money once you've got it. So I'm not doing this I'm not singling any one particular person out. I am only talking to creative empaths. I am only talking to the ones who are going to be at some point given the option to take the test of faith to see how tough they are. If there are people out there that that work for you, basically, how can I put this? If they are genuine, if they're good at what they do, you shouldn't be needing to binge watch their readings. If you keep having to go back and forth to their readings, then they're not for you, because eventually what should happen is when you go to them for advice, they should be able to give you enough in that reading. Like when I used to do readings, my clients knew that when they came to me for a reading, they shouldn't need another one for at least another 2 years. So if you're having to have a reading every day, every week, every month, then it means that whoever is guiding you on your spiritual path isn't guiding you the right way. Not necessarily saying that they're leading you in the wrong direction, but they are slowing down your process. They're slowing down your evolutionary process, because a master maker tells you what you need to hear, and then that is enough for you to continue on the next part of your journey. You shouldn't have to keep going back to them, because at some point when you are ascending, if you are truly ascending, you are going to have long periods of time where you will be expected to walk that path by yourself with no help or guidance from anyone. You are expected to walk in blind faith, just like Indiana Jones taking that leap of faith. At some point you have to step off the cliff, not knowing if anyone's there to catch you or going to meet you mid-flight, So just be prepared and, be alert. And I'm not doing this I'm just being honest because I care about people's evolutionary process. I don't want people to get to the end of their life with regrets, or get to the end of their life knowing that they should have listened more to their own intuition and should have followed their faith more than popular opinion, or worrying about the opinions of others, or what their family were going to think, or anything like that. Because the one thing that I keep being told as a high priestess and gatekeeper in my, many years of helping people die, helping them, step into the light, or talking to them once they got to the other side, waiting for their day of judgment and all that sort of thing. The one thing they always say to me when I used to say to them, is there any message that you want to give to the world, that I can pass on a message to the world? They would always say, don't die with regrets, because that is the one thing that is going to guarantee you having to pay off karmic debt. Anything that you get wrong in this life, when you get to the end of your life, no matter how old you are when you die, no matter when you die, other than like infancy and childhood, obviously, is anything that you have regrets of doing or not doing in this life, you're going to have to pay for in the next one. And it's us having to go through the quantum loops, having to go through the recycling and reincarnation process as like a collective on this planet. That's what's slowing our evolution down. Once we all pay off the debt in this life and get it right in this life, once we are all at that point, then we can start leaving and not have to come back, and then we can go into creating a whole new universe out there, and reaching what I call heaven, because heaven, real heaven, regardless of what religion or the Bible or anything tells you, real heaven is when you get to a state of purified essence, when you are of such a high, purified, magnified essence of light, that you not only don't need to come back to reincarnate to do it all again, not only do you not have karmic debt to pay, not only do you not need a physical body, but then the life that you create, the world that you create in heaven is whatever you create it to be. So whatever you think heaven will be for you when you die, if you are a purified vessel, when you get to the atomic frequency, your heaven is whatever you create it to be. You get to choose whatever you want. And that's why this process is so hard, because God allows you to create heaven on earth, heaven on your earth, whatever it is that you want your heaven to be. You get to create it for yourself. You get to become the master of your own creation. You get to become your own form of God. You get to become a part of the atomic frequency that creates an entire new timeline that you get to be the master of. So whatever you want your heaven to be is what you will get. You are granted the permission to become the creator of your own universe. And that's why you have to go through these trials. And that's why many are called but few are chosen, because most people don't want to do the work, or they give up, or they give in to temptation, or they take their eye off the prize, which is the light at the end of that tunnel, the light of creation, the light of rebirth. You know, when people die, they see the light. When people are born, they see the light. You know, it's the Big Bang. You get to become your very own Big Bang, the light of creation. And it's such an honour and a privilege to do. And that's why this whole time I have never kept my eye off the prize, because what I want to create when I die is something so much better for my ancestors than anything we've ever had before. And that's saying something, because my ancestors were kings and queens and knights and princesses, and you know, so I just thought I would share that with you. And yeah, so now, you know, have a think. Are you really on an ascending path? Is your spiritual leader really an ascended master? Are they really part of the 144,000? Are they really a divine masculine, divine feminine? Are they really who they say they are? Because this isn't a time to be mucking about now. Our world has gotten to the point now where we are on the brink of make or break time. You know, we are at the crossroads, and depending on how many of us are on the light side will decide whether we tip the balance in favour of evolving, or whether there's more of them on the dark side where they tip the balance into a descending planet. And people like me are desperately trying to get enough people out there to come to the light side, so that we can tip the balance the right way, so that we can evolve and leave something better for our children and our grandchildren and our great-grandchildren, and so on and so forth. So ask yourself, are you tough enough? How much does your faith mean to you? Are you really prepared to give up everyone and everything, including, even if for a moment, your reputation, your livelihood, your home, you know, your luxuries? Are you prepared to give all of that up to walk the Christ path in order to get to the light at the end of the tunnel, knowing that what you do, what you create as a result, is going to change the world forever in a good way, and leave a legacy that you and your ancestors will be proud of for future generations to come? You know, a little bit of hell for a lot of heaven. So I'm going to leave that with you. I'm going to have a coffee now. And I suggest that you probably, I'll leave links in the description box for my LinkedIn and Twitter. I didn't put the whole thing up on my Instagram because it's just, there's too much, and because, you know, with my account was hacked and blah, blah, blah. But I'll put the links up to what I've been talking about just in the last day or so on Twitter and LinkedIn, so you can see the revelation of God, you know, to prove that the supernatural is real. And I will speak to you later, and I hope you enjoy this podcast. And if there is anybody out there, you know, any men out there of African American or Latin American, African, Indigenous descent, Polynesian, whatever, who believes in the supernatural and is curious about the paranormal and the occult, and is a righteous person, you know, who is either of a good faith or trying to find their faith or anything like that, who thinks that they'd like to be a part of future podcasts, we will talk about everything from urban myths and legends to the paranormal, the supernatural, faith, all of it. We'll talk about everything on these podcasts, as well as like unsolved murders and, you know, unexplained, unsolved mysteries. You know, I've got a whole lineup of topics and subjects that I want to talk about. Email me in the email below, or DM me on Instagram or Twitter or LinkedIn or whatever. And my sons and I, when we do get justice, we're going to take the money from my lawsuit, and I'm going to retire my sister. That's the first thing I'm going to do. She's never left my side, and I'm going to retire her from her job as a death angel. Basically, she's a nurse for people who suffer from dementia who are terminally ill. She basically looks after them while they die and helps cross them over. And she's really good at it, but it's hard work for her, like it's exhausting for her. And she was my defender. She took up her sword and protected and defended me while I was in hospital. And when I got out, trying to clear my name, arguing with doctors, fought with doctors, sat in with meetings when they tried to say that our indigeny was a mental illness, and that she defended me. And so I'm going to take my lawsuit money and I'm going to retire my sister, and she's going to be my stylist for when I do, public events and that, promoting our video games, and when I open the Alchemist Cavern in Salem and all that, and when I build the Dragonarium, any public publicity photos, any public events, that she's going to be my stylist. So I'm going to retire her, and I'm going to take my boys, and I'm going to get us a home of our own where we have big bedrooms, our own bedrooms, and a big backyard, and they can have their cats and their dogs and their pets and that. And we're going to hit the road, and I'm going to employ someone to be my driver, and because I can't drive because it's not safe for me because of the time jumping and all that. I never know when it's going to happen. And then we're going to go out and we're going to hit the world and hit the streets and make these shows. And I'm going to take my biorhythmic field generator, and I'm going to go to places, where there's been like famous cases like Mothman and the Beast of Bodmin Moor, and Whitechapel with the Ripper murders, and all those kind of famous cases, the Amityville house, and the house, the haunted house in Connecticut, and I want to go to the Dozier School for Boys, and the Killing Fields, and Ypres, and all these. I've talked about it for like the longest time, so you know what I'm talking about. So famous cases and not so famous cases, and we're going to do what we have to do, cross everything over, cleanse everything, raise everything, investigate these cases, and bring these shows to you on our channel, and on our website. And then when it's finally safe to go to America, I'll go and I'll open the Alchemist Cavern, which is also going to be a museum and an education centre and other things as well, which I'm not prepared to disclose in public right now, and also build my Dragonarium, which is my home for Indigenous children, unaccompanied border children, and homeless kids, and that we're going to take them all in. And that's what I'm going to do with my money. So I'm going to buy me a home and set my kids up, and then I'm going to basically pour all of it into making our games and opening our store and everything like that, and give it all away, because why would I want to keep this money? It's blood money. So I always said, as long as I get my dream home and my kids are taken care of in the future, and I never have to worry about paying bills, as long as I get to see the world and do what I love, I'm prepared to just, put all the money to invest it into the future, for businesses and video games and the homes for children. And, God willing, ancestors willing, if I do a good enough job, I intend to have a children's home, a Dragonarium, in as many countries as I possibly can. But if I even just get this one thing, then, I'm going to have considered it all worth it. So I'm going to go now, and I'm going to make a coffee, and I'm sorry it's a long video, but I promised myself I would keep my podcast to under an hour. But when you talk on behalf Mwah.